CCR TV is very, very pleased to have with us two pillars of our society. We always know about the story in the Bible of the Good Samaritan, but that was many thousand years ago. Today we have with us Good Samaritans right here in the heart of Goa who are doing phenomenal work. And this is none other than Street Providence, headed by Donald Fernandes and assisted by, among other people, Advocate Caroline Colaco. A very good evening to both of you, and thank you so much for sparing time to come in spite of all your work that you all do for the poor and the same. Just a little bit of another word I want to tell our listeners first. I call these people social entrepreneurs. You know, we got business entrepreneurs who do business for the sake of making money. But these are social entrepreneurs who do business for the people. No money goes to them. They have started 5 banks. And I'm not talking about financial banks. I'm talking about a food bank, a water bank, a clothes bank, medical bank, and a school fees bank. So 5 different banks have been started. All these banks are non-financial enterprises, but all helping people. So let us hear more about this directly from Donald and Advocate Caroline. So Donald, tell us, I know this story began way back in 2014 and you were registered only 4-5 years ago. But tell us the early part, the story when you and your wife decided to set up something for the poor.
So it goes back to 2013 when we were gifted a second child after 7 years, and in Thanksgiving for the child, we decided to cook food and give it to the people in our village. So we took 2 villages, Sangolda and Salegaon, and we started giving about 50 tiffins a day. And that went on. Later on, we decided, the same people required to go to the hospital because there were some poor people. So we bought an ambulance. And then a year later, we decided, people didn't have water. So we put some taps on our compound where the people could access the water. And the 4th year later, we decided to actually start a food bank, which came up somewhere in 2017.
Right. So the food bank, the water bank. What about the school fees bank?
Initially, we found that there were some few people who could not afford fees. So we would chip in and pay either from our account, or we would ask people to chip in and pay the fees directly. But now we see that most of the education is free. There are some issues where higher education may be 11th, 12th, or first year, second year, third year. But that is something which will go on by itself.
And what about the clothes bank? You also started a clothes bank. What is that all about?
Occasionally we issue social media notices saying that we are collecting clothes because we know people who require clothes, and our rehabilitation homes also require clothes. So we keep collecting clothes as and when there is a requirement. See, most of our things are done as and when there is a requirement. We just don't do something and keep it with us.
And then you also started a medicine bank. What's that all about?
Yeah, so we are trying to take it to a different level now, in the sense, see, there are a lot of people who dispose of medicine which are not used and which are in good quality. But officially there is no notification by the government where you can run a medicine bank. So it basically requires a doctor, or it requires a pharmacist who will look into this, see that it's not exposed, see that it's not expired, see that it is not opened, or some stuff like that. And there are only 3 places in India which run a medicine bank. So we also are trying to see how best that we can fit ourselves officially, like the food bank. See, in the food bank we have an official license, it's registered, it's within the law.
Initially you were started as a thing to help the poor people, particularly people on the streets, to give them food. How did those people actually know about you, and how did you get in touch with them in such a way that they could come to your place and have the food, etc.? How did it all happen?
So once we started giving the tiffins, we realized that it was we took time to study the matter, and then we realized that we need to move to the cities where people were on the street. So we required food. So when we put this fridge, the first fridge in May 2017, we realized that food was coming in. Now that much food we needed to move out. So we went to cities. We got volunteers involved. We created an awareness where people would give and the food would move. So that is how.
Okay. Advocate Caroline, you're an advocate by profession. This is a charitable thing. It is, as I said, the Good Samaritans of Goa. How did you get into this, and what are your feelings today having got into it?
Well, I have been involved with issues of social concern right from my college days, more specifically concerned about issues of women and human rights. So when Donald told me, and asked that, help in terms of some kind of legal assistance, I thought that of course I could do it. But more than that, even prior to joining actually Street Problems and becoming a trustee, I had seen that they really mean action. There was a case where I had seen one man lying on the road, and of course, being socially aware, I just couldn't pass by him when he was right in the middle of the road without a stitch of clothing on him. And I immediately called up Donald because that was the name given to me. And literally within 10 minutes, their van was there. They picked him up. They knew exactly what was to be done. So I said, these are people who mean and can really act. So much later, when he told me that we would like a lawyer to be on our team because there would be a lot of legal work that we would need. Of course, I said yes, with a rider that I cannot be part of the day-to-day, activities and stuff like this. But yes, I'm there, and more so also because they did say that rescuing women also from the streets. And women are always much more vulnerable being on the streets, which was my area of concern. That I thought, yes, okay, if there's some way I can do that, then I would be happy to be part of it.
Talking about women on the streets, Caroline, there are many cases of women being thrown out of their homes through various reasons. And is that where you come in?
Yes, of course. In fact, the number of women like this, due to either domestic violence or mental illness, many of them are in our homes, of course, is a big area of concern, and they have no place to go. Now, there are laws and there are actually social welfare departments, etc., supposed to have, if not full homes, at least halfway homes, so that they can at least recoup and then find their way back, which is totally lacking. We have tried as a women's activist, we have put in applications to various departments, but somehow it's just not worked out. Even I personally was part of a group that had a halfway home for women, but it's very challenging. But now we have women, and many of them are mentally ill due to years of either neglect or really domestic violence. So
now, Donald, these homes, I believe you've got 8 homes spread all over Goa. First and foremost, how did you get those homes? Are you renting them, or are they people have donated to you to use it for this purpose? How does it really work?
Basically, what we do is we have rented these homes. We have taken one this decision that none of the homes we will own. We don't want to own any property because we are a lay trust. So we don't know whether how long it will work. So when you take asset from somebody in your name, and tomorrow you close the trust, you can't pop the asset off.
Exactly.
So renting is always will be our focus. Usually the rents are very basic. It's given for a purpose. So basically we are more into renting.
Now, basically you are an NGO. Of course, you are under the income tax benefit category. But this giving food, medicines, this, that, must be costing a bomb. How does all the finance come in, and what have you done to get that finance?
So basically what we did is we stuck to a principle where we'll only accept checks. Okay, so we worked on that principle for 4 years after we registered. We got our ATG organized, so people get 50% exemption. We use social media. Basically, we use Facebook, WhatsApp, Twitter to garner resources. People are also looking at lay people who are doing such type of work, because So sometimes there were only specific type of people doing the work. Now it's shifting towards lay people. So if you're doing something which nobody else is doing, you will get the resources.
So basically, your funding comes from people
Yes.
who know that you are doing a good job and they want to help you out.
Yeah.
And in the process, you help them out.
And then
All right.
there is a lot of kindness, there is a lot of people who really want to give. The only thing is they want to see that where their money is going to the right place.
Right, okay.
And if they can see that, yes, there are homes, yes, people are being picked up on the street, it's all there in the social media. So basically high credibility.
See, among the other things you have mentioned in your vision statement, and incidentally, there is a fantastic website created by Street Providence, which is very well worth looking at, because there you'll get a lot of information of what this NGO is all about. They are absolutely incredible. The amount of work that is put in, and I'm going to come to that in a minute in terms of where do they get the manpower problem from. But let me ask him this basic question first. There are 250 ration kits you provide to people who do not have rations, and that costs you around about 1,000 rupees per kit. That's a lot of money by itself. So how does that all happen? I mean, how do you go and give these kits to these people? Do you go there physically? You have a band of volunteers to help you out? How does it really work?
Okay, so when we registered the NGO, we identified a section what we are going to do to the food, and we found that there were a lot of HIV poor families. So we tied up with a NGO who was already doing work with them for 20 years, and we were giving them 50 kits every month.
Yeah.
So we went on till for about 3 years we gave 50 kits. We would arrange the resources on social media. But last year when the lockdown came, there were a lot of people who came to know that that there was demand for kits, ration kits. So we gave 250. We arranged again through social media, and it went on from June or July till January or February 2021. That's when the COVID started sliding down. So basically, what we do, we tied up with most of our projects. Like it's spread, so we cannot run everywhere. So we tie up with other people who are already in that line, and we check the credibility. We do our back study. We take data. We analyze the data from them. There'll be a fact-finding person going around, calling, checking, discussing, and we found that yes, there are maybe about 800 to 900 actually HIV families in Goa who require ration, and we decided to give 250 who those NGOs felt required 250. That's
Okay. Now tell me, you talk about food banks, and you have, I believe, got now refrigerators kept in
Multiple
critical places where people can go and just collect it and have their food, the poor people. Now, here it requires 3-4 things. One, the food has to come there, the refrigerators have to be there, it has to be fresh food, and all that sort of thing. Tell us a little bit more of how actually this works.
so till March 2020, the refrigerator system was working well. So what started in 2017 May ran till say March 2020. Like people who had extra food and they knew where the refrigerators were kept because it was put on social media, so people would drop the food. Those who were holding the fridges would dispose the food, so they knew the poor in their area.
Right.
So it worked because people want to give the food and there is a place to accept the food, and there are people who are operating the fridge who will move the food ahead. Post March 2020, it's gone for a toss because the weddings have slowed down. So our food program is not working at the moment where collection of food is because there is no food. Everything is, the weddings are only 50. What was 500?
And there is a lot of excess food actually. You'd be surprised. Every time a wedding is over, I mean, look at the amount of food that
That's
gets revealed. So
exactly.
they are very happy to put it in our food bank. And of course, we are very happy that people get access to it,
Yeah, but you talk about at that point in time, because of the COVID, wedding stopped, this stopped, that stopped, etc., etc. But still, there are street people who are getting their food.
Okay, so like us, see, once we started and went into the cities, there were a lot of people also are feeding on the street. They may not be feeding in multiple places. So people also understood that there is an opportunity to feed. Like in this COVID, a lot of groups have come out who didn't come out. So we took a back seat. See, there's no point all feeding in the same place.
Right.
So we took a back seat for 1 month. We said, let others people feed, because everybody wants to feed, and we went into some other feeding.
Talking about that some other field, you also have a daily food service at all the major hospitals in Goa.
Yes.
All right, where you provide lunch as well as dinner.
Breakfast.
And
How do the patients know that you exist?
Okay.
And second, where does the funding come for this food? Who prepares the food? How does it go there? Who's distributing it? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Outside 3 hospitals, we started this last COVID. We started this in 2020 March. Once the COVID started, we started with GMC and IPHP. So we got a volunteer. We got a retired professor who said, I will feed, because he stays in that locality. Our team would take the food and give it to him, and he would feed. He would feed half an hour outside IPHP. He would feed half an hour outside GMC. From there, we started Mapusa District Hospital. And then in June 2020, we started in District Hospital, South Goa. So this ran till 2021 it ran, but due to the COVID which came again in maybe March 2021, most of our volunteers are little senior citizens. So we didn't want to, it's volunteer.
That's a risk factor.
And then other people other people came forward to serve. So we said, okay, since they are feeding, so see, the menu is very cheap. It's not cheap in the sense it's cheap. It's a nutritious menu which cost us 15 rupees per breakfast. And a lot of people decided to celebrate their birthdays or some function or some Thanksgiving by contributing towards the breakfast. And all 3 places put together, maybe 600 or 650 breakfast. It varied. It kept varying. It's not like, it will. So whatever breakfast remains would go to our rehabilitation.
Yeah, right. Now the other factor is that you have a situation where I believe not only the poor, but you also got HIV people now you are taking care of. How did you get from poor to HIV? HIV is a serious problem.
So, like when we were feeding people on the street, we also started the rehabilitation homes. So we realized that people who are actually stuck up on the street, so they require to get off the street. Now, usually when they get off the street, in a due course of time, we take them for a test. Parameters are checked. So we found that there was no HIV home for men. There is an HIV home for children, there is an HIV home for ladies, but there was no HIV home for men. So what we do, in 2 of our homes, we segregated 2 rooms. Although HIV is not, it's not transferable easily, but just to be on the safe side, because there are different types of people. And we kept 2 rooms in one room in 2 separate homes for HIV people. So anybody on the street who's HIV, who's stuck up, he can come over and stay with us.
Is that a big problem in Goa, HIV?
See, like the statistics states, in the government hospital, there may be a few thousands of people, but most are the poor people who may be staying in the slums or migrant areas, or there may be other people who maybe are taken care by their families at home. So we are not focused fully on that particular problem at the moment. We are saying, what if there is any HIV man on the street or any HIV homeless person who doesn't have place, he can come into.
Now the wonderful thing that I have heard is, and in fact read about in the newspapers as well, is that you have managed to develop a fantastic relationship with the police and governmental authorities. That surprises me, because usually when we hear about police, we hear about government authorities, we think about corruption, we think about bribes, we think of those kind of things. How did you manage to break that barrier and have a cordial relationship with them?
Okay, so basically what we do is we are doing the work what the police is supposed to do. The police is supposed to do the work what the government tells them. Now there are no registered shelter homes for street people. So when we started, we somehow managed to put our idea across to people who believe what is homeless, what is poverty, and it sank into them. So there was an opportunity where a senior IPS officer saw somebody on the street and he was troubled. So somebody told me, see, they're going to call you. Why don't you be ready to pick him up, because he's calling you. So we picked him up. Next day he called us, the officer called us. He told us how can we there's a problem. So once we explained, he said, okay, we'll take you for our officers meeting where you can put your point forward. So we had an officers meeting where 200 senior officers, right from the inspectors, the DYS, the senior people were there. They asked us what you want. We told them we want an official note, which they gave us an official note. The note went to all the police stations, and that's how it worked. Second thing is the government, government knows there's a problem and they know there's a solution. So we don't have any problem working with the government as long as our
work gets
done with the government. So funding in the women's home, we are getting a grant from the government. Now we registered ourselves for under the Mental Disability Act because there's a central government. So wherever the government is giving you funding, we will be standing there because
that's where Caroline comes in.
so see,
actually it's not very difficult if like as you said with the police, that I remember initially prior to Street Providence being found, there were people who would phone up the police when they saw a person on the street. They would say, "Amche kaam no, that's with the municipality." Municipality say, "That's not our job, that's the police." And because technically it does entail a lot of work. First you have to get him checked medically, then you have to see he's quite often mentally ill, then perhaps he also would need medical care. So it means tying up with so many departments. But once they knew that Street Providence is there, they are easy to get. I mean, they actually would really want to pick them up, but they didn't have a home. They did not know.
The system was not created. So let me add in this point. See, we also are funded by Azim Premji Foundation, Pan India, who funds shelter home, and they also were surprised that how did we get because they fund they must be funding 150-200 shelter homes across India, and none of the shelter homes have got an official note from a respective police station. So he asked me so many times, how did you get this document? How is it given to you? So see, when the work is that transparent, you can expect.
The other wonderful thing that we know about is during the Kerala floods. Now, Kerala had a huge, massive problem. And I understand that Street Providence provided water and food materials to the extent of 1.5 crores. 1.5 crores of rupees was spent by Street Providence to help Kerala out of their massive flood problem. How did that all happen?
So when the flood started, we first said we'll send one truck of water from our side. That's what we could do. So because it takes time to study the matter. So as we sent the truck, we found that the situation was really bad. So we were almost 1 year old. The banks were set up, the fridges were set up. There were volunteers all over Goa. So we said we'll send a social media posting, and it worked because see, a person in Veli, he went and gave something in Veli. Somebody in Madgaon gave in Madgaon. Somebody in Banavali gave. Somebody in Ponda. So when there was a collection center, there were multiple collection centers. We identified maybe 10 collection centers. So whoever, because it was flashing on TV that the flood is happening. So as it went on, and the most important part was we got all 13 trucks which went to Kerala went free. We didn't pay because the delivery. That is the name of the company, Delivery. He said, sir, we will give you free transport. So they got the material from the banks to their warehouse, packed it and sent it to Kerala without we paying 1 rupee. So we just use the medium of communication, social media, to make people aware that this is what we are sending. And whatever we send, each truck we send, we upload it back on. See, this has gone here, that has gone there. So
could be
so seen. Facebook and Twitter and all are not that bad really. When you hear these wonderful stories, you see how, on the positive side, Facebook works so well for the benefit of the people, and Street Providence with these wonderful people are doing a fantastic job using social media to help people. 1.5 crores of rupees. I just cannot believe it. Now, coming to our own local situation, here also you were instrumental in helping the police in many, many ways. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So during the COVID, what we did last year also we worked. We put water purifiers. We gave them water kettles. Whatever we could do last year we did. This year what we did? This year we said we'll wait for some time because we had our own rehabilitation homes. We also had some issues in our homes where multiple of our staff were not feeling well. They were down. So we didn't want to. But we gave 5 vehicles away where people could be transported to facilities of COVID, like for checkup, So we gave 5 different vehicles, 4 we gave to different individuals and 1 we gave to the government. Then we gave away 25 cylinders because we realized that we will not be oxygen cylinders. We realized we will not be able to do it ourselves. So we spread the cylinders. Then we also got into food at GMC, breakfast and dinner for 1 month. The dinner we stopped, the breakfast we continued. Then we increased ration kits. We gave about, for the month of May, we gave 1500 ration kits to poor people, again through volunteers in rural areas. We started giving lunch and dinner for people who are infected with COVID at home through a setup where you log into the system, you register yourself. So that's what we could do because we took a hit in our homes and we didn't have that many manpower because we already have 100 plus people to take care. So that was our priority. So whatever we could do, we jammed up wherever we could. Whatever we could not do, but we are focusing more on ration. So June and July, we are trying to give about 2,000 families across Goa dry ration kits. If the situation improves, we will stop. If the situation does not improve, we'll go on August, September, October. We may go to 2,500.
Because the number of people who are unemployed and really the levels of poverty that personally also I've seen because of the pandemic, we didn't have court, etc. I was personally involved in actually handing over the kits and going to the rural areas. And I've seen the levels of, poverty and that really they didn't even have.
This is among the migrants or is it among our local people?
I did mostly locals.
See,
there are of
such
course
a high level of poverty among our own locals.
Yes, that's because of various kinds of things. Their jobs, many people, working as in so many establishments, it just kept them home. Housemaids, the people told them just not to come to work. Factories closed, restaurants closed. If all the restaurants are closed, they just sent them back home. So what are they going to do?
Yeah,
so if you actually go to see, the impacts are pretty severe.
So
actually.
while on the one side there's such a lot of negativity in terms of people losing jobs, women lose their husbands, children lose their parents, and all that sort of thing. Yet the funding keeps coming in for you.
Good question. See, there is enough of funding when you're doing work where people can see. Now ours is very transparent. So we are only accepting checks. First thing, and we are giving you
only accept checks
or NEFT, and we give you the ATG certificate within 1 day.
Right.
It's just that in the month of May, our accountant also was infected. So we extended it another 15 days. Otherwise, whoever funds us, the next day they get their certificate. So we went into ration because nobody got into dry ration. They are all into. So we will choose a product. We will choose a project where we can manage it and nobody else is doing it. If somebody comes after that, that's okay. So like I said, we did 1,500 kits for May. We got 2,000 going for June, 2,000 for July. If it does not improve, it will go 2,500 August, maybe 3,000 September. So
but
people are.
So how many people are there in your team, especially the ones who do all this analysis of what is the requirement,
So we have different.
where you have to concentrate. Who is doing all this work?
So we have 4 trustees.
Besides Donald, of
No,
course.
we have 4 trustees. Out of that, one is Caroline, one is Freddie, he takes care of the maintenance, and one is my sister, Jonita. So she takes care of back office. We have about 15 staff who are paid, but we have a lot of volunteers in different segments who have been with us last 4 years. They understand the reality in their locality. They understand the reality on the ground. So all put together, it all works on WhatsApp with us. So as the demand will come, the operation will keep flowing. It's not that what I say is right. I may have the idea, but it will be implemented by the team.
Volunteers is our strength actually.
Okay.
And also linking up with already established NGOs, as you said earlier, who know the reality. Like for example, we gave so many kits in Bicholim, but we don't know this place. So we were linked with one person who knows the reality there, who has a track record of working with women for the past 15 odd years. So she was able to give us, I said, I need a list of at least 15 people because Bicholi is 15. She immediately said, these are the poorest of poor. One doesn't have a husband, one lost due to this. She was able to. So we don't really just, our whole recording is also so impeccable for the funder to also see that it is a name with the her Aadhaar card number, the house number, and a little synopsis of what really is, so that anyone can check up, because it could be that they go into the wrong families, etc. So these are really the people who are in genuine need, that we have been identifiable because of our link up with people who work in those areas. So right from Sangye, Kepe, Kankon, these are people who really have identified the houses and have sent even photographic evidence, which you can get now. Show the house, show the person receiving the ration.
So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. You have here in Goa an NGO called Street Providence that is doing phenomenal work. You heard it direct from Donald and from Caroline. And if you think that you want to contribute to this worthy cause, all you have to do is go to their website called Street Providence, and you'll find all the information that you need. You can also go to Facebook, Twitter, and these other social media agencies that are there. Or you can even talk to your friends who are in various NGOs, and they will tell you definitely that there is this NGO called Street Providence that is doing phenomenal work. So all I can say is, we congratulate you for doing this fantastic work. We encourage you to continue doing it, and of course our praise as CCR TV is always, we always praise God, and we thank people like you. We will continue praying for you, and I'm sure that there will be multiple funds coming in more and more through this channel to you, and we hope you will continue doing bigger things for the people who really need help.
Yes.
So compliments to you. Thank you so much for spending time today, and I continue doing a great job. All the best.
Thank you so much. Thank you also.